Do you ever feel overwhelmed by the ever-changing world of technology? Tech It Out can help make some sense of it all. Breaking down geek speak into street speak, technology columnist, author, and TV personality Mark Saltzman covers consumer technology each week for every listener. Mark tackles the latest news, reviews, and how-tos to help you understand what's hot, what's not, and why.
Hey everyone, welcome to Tech It Out, episode 267. Hope you're doing great as we're inching towards the end of October. Love this time of year, primarily because of Halloween in a week or so. My wife Kelly and I just love going to or hosting costume parties. We've got some fun outfits this year for sure. Hey, between coming out of a pandemic and a looming recession, we all need reasons to have fun, no? All right. I digress. We do have a stellar Tech It Out show planned for you this hour with 4 different guests. We'll start talking ergonomics in a moment and how you sit at your desk could be hurting you. So what you should know. After that, when you fly the friendly skies, it may be via sustainable aviation fuel, which is what we're going to learn about with Honeywell in a few minutes from now. Also on the program, hearing aids are finally over the counter. So we're going to talk with Lexie about that and what to look for. And finally, the latest game in the Syberia Adventure series is here. And so we're going to call across the pond to France for an update. All of this and more on an all-new Tech It Out, powered by ASUS for those in search of incredible. I'll tell you more about ASUS shortly, but let's officially kick off this week's Tech It Out with our first interview. Whether you sit in front of a PC at an office or at home, or maybe it's a hybrid setup, a combination of the two, which is not uncommon these days, how you work with your technology could have an impact on your health, from posture to lighting to the ways that you hold and use accessories like mice and keyboards could all lead to discomfort or even worse, pain or even chronic conditions. This is why the field of ergonomics is so important. And so we're now joined by Lisa Schuler. She's an ergonomics expert with more than a decade of experience under her belt. Lisa is with Kensington, a company that makes various solutions for all of us in the workforce, where she serves as in-house ergonomics expert and manager of product marketing as well. Hi, Lisa. Thanks so much for chatting with us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Mark.
Great. Now, before we talk about solutions to better using our tech, why don't we take a step back for a moment and talk to us about what ergonomics is all about and your work?
Yeah, so ergonomics, or sometimes also known as ergo, really is a pretty broad definition, but the nutshell of it is you want to make yourself comfortable and work as little as possible in whatever you're doing.
All right. Again, with technology, the repetitive nature of some actions like pushing a mouse or clicking or typing, or the way that you sit and look at your monitor, the way your neck is, the way that the lighting in the room that I hinted at, this can all impact your health if your devices or your habits are not ergonomically sound.
Correct. Yeah. Everything is impacted inside of work, outside of work. So really trying to maintain a neutral posture and, again, making your body not have to work to view and do the things you do repetitively is certainly key.
Yeah. I'm sure our listeners are familiar with phrases like carpal tunnel syndrome and all that. So we're going to get to all that, I'm sure, Lisa. So with that in mind, can you share any tips for those working from home? I guess things like sitting at a bar stool at a kitchen countertop, at an island or whatever is not a great way to work on your laptop. Is that right? Or lying on a couch or, a sofa or in bed. That's not ideal.
Yeah, those certainly aren't ideal for long periods of time. So to break it down for work from home, and really this can apply to wherever you're working, it's the same principle. And that's something important to note. But number one, thinking about the space that you're working in. So whether it is that bar stool or that recliner chair, or you actually have a desk to work at, you want to think about what you're going to be doing in that space. Then second to that would be the setup. So making sure you have appropriate equipment for that setup. So equipment you might have at a bar stool or in that recliner chair could be very different than if you have a nice executive style desk or even a traditional desk in your home office. And then the third thing is, after you've set up appropriately, determine that space, you have to move. And that's the key, that you can't sit in the same position. Even with the best ergonomic equipment, you cannot sit at your desk for 8 hours a day and not move. So having a variety of solutions available and spaces to work in is really that golden piece to ergonomics.
Yeah, I'm guilty of, getting so absorbed in my work that next thing I know, it's like 2-3 hours later, I haven't budged, I haven't eaten. So that's not ideal. I remember once reading about the 20-20-20 rule that every 20 minutes you should look 20 feet away for about 20 seconds.
Yes. So happy that you know that. You are a star. Thanks, Mark. And I'm so glad.
Thank you. Yeah. So again, how we sit, I've heard about, having proper chairs for, lumbar support, having your feet on the ground, or if you're vertically challenged like me, if you can't have your feet on the floor with a high up chair, is like having a little box or something. It's like all about how you sit. And I know that one of the things I remember reading about was when you look at your computer monitor, you're supposed to look straight ahead, not turn your neck. These are all the kinds of things that an ergonomist would recommend probably, right?
Yeah, definitely having your computer monitor directly in front of you. And a popular question is, how close should it be? And basically I tell people, if you put your hand out like you're telling someone to stop, like a flat palm out in front of you, your monitor should be about that far away from you. And that's where working off just a laptop is an issue, as most people are not going to work with their laptop that far away from them, and it's much lower.
Yeah, that's a great point. I'm doing that, by the way. I'm sure a lot of our listeners are doing exactly that motion that you said. Another issue with laptops probably is the keyboard is kind of smaller and cramped together, right? Like you can't comfortably rest your hands on that. So with that in mind, you said, Lisa, that the advice that you give is relevant for those working at home or in an office. So with that in mind, what about peripherals like mice and keyboards and lighting and those other considerations?
Yeah, so I think that you can certainly make something more budget-minded, more portable, or you can go into a premium-ended solution depending on where you're working and what budget you have to work with. But my basics that I would tell people, so if you are in an office or a permanent type space, things that are highly adjustable like a monitor arm or a keyboard that's curved like our ProFit Ergo keyboard or a vertical mouse, those are all really great starting points along with the footrest that you're not going to throw those in a backpack and carry them with you on the train or put them in your car every day. But those have the highest amount of adjustability. And then moving over to a hybrid type worker, those are the people that may be working from home, in the office, or trying to get their work done on mass transit. You really have to think about portability there. So a couple products that I would recommend hands down for everybody, as everyone is working hybrid at some point, it seems, is a laptop riser for that exact point you made, Mark, that having the laptop screen always makes you crunch over your laptop. The keyboard is connected on a laptop, so you got to break that away. So having a compact keyboard you can take with you. We have a great one that's called the multi-device compact keyboard that's Bluetooth or wireless. And then having some sort of mouse. I always would recommend a vertical type mouse. We have some really great wireless ones, but if you're more of a traditional mousing person, that's fine too. It's just really getting those three main things: laptop riser, external keyboard, external mouse. And that should really go along with every laptop deployment or every laptop purchase that you have, to have those basic items to allow people to work correctly.
Awesome. We're chatting with Lisa Sky Tapor Schuler. She's an ergonomics expert with Kensington, a very popular computer accessories company, has a bunch of devices. For pricing, by the way, you can just go to kensington.com because they do vary based on where you're hearing this show, and there's often sales and all that. So take a look. And I like those Bluetooth keyboards that you recommended, by the way, Lisa, because you can also carry one with you and use it with a smartphone or a tablet. You can essentially turn a small device like a smartphone into a computer of sorts by using a comfortable keyboard with it.
Definitely.
Mm-hmm. What's your take on using a trackpad on a laptop versus a mouse?
Yeah, again, it's going to be something that's really only good for a very short duration of time. The repetitive motions, it's very similar to how we will be swiping across a smartphone or tablet. And that is something that we're doing so much throughout our day that that's going to cause a lot of issues down the line if it's not already for people. So you need to remove that repetitive nature of that task and move over to an external mouse, whether that's traditional, vertical, a trackball. There's a variety of options you can go, but the trackpad is no good for really more than 10 or 15 minutes of your day.
Okay, thanks for that. A friend of mine who's a physiotherapist, I think she calls it an RSI, right? Repetitive stress injury, right? So anything you can do to minimize those risks on your body is what ergonomics is all about. You hinted at traveling and working on planes or maybe in hotel rooms. I have a little hack that I'll share with you. I've written about this in the past. If you like your standing desk at the office and you find yourself in a hotel room and uncomfortable sitting for a long period of time, the ironing board in the closet does serve as a great standing desk. It's often the exact height you need when you place your laptop on it so you can stand and use the computer.
I mean, I think you're following your own advice in a good nature, that you're moving. And so trying to find something that feels comfortable for you, there's nothing wrong with that. Now, would I work on that for hours? Probably not. But I think it's a great space if that's what you have available to you.
Before we wrap up, are there any other specific Kensington products that you'd recommend that you haven't already?
So the only other thing that I would bring up to bring into ergonomics is we do have a brand new professional video conferencing line. And so that is important in ergonomics when you think about how many times you're on video throughout the day. And if you're still just using your laptop webcam, definitely think about purchasing a webcam to put directly in front of you. We have a boom arm that can make it really adjustable. So you're looking directly at the person you're talking to versus hopefully not up your nose or to the side or anything like that. But that makes it a better presentation, but also a lot more ergonomic.
All right. And what's the best website to learn more? Is it simply kensington.com?
Kensington.com. You got it.
All right. Lisa, thank you so much for your time and your expertise.
Thanks, Mark.
Speaking of computers, a huge thank you to ASUS, the title sponsor of Tech It Out. They make some awesome laptops, including the ZenBook family, VivoBooks, Studio Books, Chromebooks, and Expert Books. Something for everyone, for all budgets and needs. You can head over to asus.com/US/radio for more info. When we return on Tech It Out, we're going to chat with Honeywell about sustainable aviation fuel. This is super cool and great for the environment. We'll be right back.
Listen to Tech It Out whenever you want. Find the Tech It Out podcast at iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome back to Tech It Out. Now, this is cool and not a topic I cover often on Tech It Out. Honeywell has developed a solution that allows for ethanol producers or petrochemical producers to convert corn-based, cellulosic, or sugar-based ethanol into sustainable aviation fuel. Joining us on the line to discuss is Kevin O'Neill. He's Senior Business Leader for Renewable Fuels for Honeywell's Sustainable Technology Solutions Business Unit. Thanks for your time today.
Yeah, how you doing, Mark? Thanks for having me.
Thrilled to have you on the show to break down this geek speak into street speak. This is very much a consumer-facing show, so you're going to need to go easy on us. What is sustainable aviation fuel, and how is it produced?
Okay, Mark. Yeah, sustainable aviation fuel is basically jet fuel for airplanes. And what makes it different from typical jet fuel that is produced from crude oil or from petroleum in oil refineries, what makes it different is that it's produced from sustainable feedstocks. And what I mean by sustainable feedstocks are things like waste oils, used cooking oils, vegetable oils for non-edible purposes, things like that, as opposed to petroleum. And they're sustainable, so they have lower carbon footprint than conventional jet fuel does.
Right.
So sustainable aviation fuel is basically a way to make jet fuel, something to power an airplane, with significantly lower greenhouse gas emissions than is possible with petroleum.
All right, so that's the main benefit, is that it's better on the environment. I get that. What's the range like? Is it comparable to a petroleum-based jet engine?
So sustainable aviation fuel is virtually, on a chemical basis, it's virtually the same thing as jet fuel. It can be blended up to 50% with fossil jet to produce an overall jet fuel that has exactly the same specifications that conventional jet fuel has. So it's virtually the same material on a chemical basis. It's just produced differently. It's like I said, it comes from different feedstocks. So those feedstocks, though, they do have a lot of the same molecules. They can be arranged in a way, through the chemical processing to make virtually the same material as a conventional jet.
Fascinating. I know there's a lot of talk about electric planes lately, but I don't think they have the range yet. Like, we're not just quite there yet.
You're talking about coast-to-coast flying or overseas or things like that. Now, that's a ways off for sure.
Okay. So when you talk about the environmental benefit for SAF, or sustainable aviation fuel, can you quantify how much this is going to help, by reducing greenhouse gases?
Yeah, absolutely. And the interesting thing about SAF is the benefit you get from it is really dependent on a couple of things. It's dependent on how the material is processed, how the feedstock is processed, but also on the feedstock itself. Certain feedstocks lend themselves to be much lower greenhouse gas emitting. Certain vegetable oils are a little bit higher, animal fats, other wastes are lower. Other things, biomass can be significantly lower in terms of its overall carbon footprint. The overall benefit is definitely impacted by what's used. And right now, we see, with typical conventional state-of-the-art technology, something on the order of 50 to 80% reduction in greenhouse gas emissions with the feedstocks and the processing methods that are available today. Yeah. We're obviously looking at getting to net zero and even potentially even better, as the technology continues to develop.
Right, but that's still significant by today's standards. And as you said, you may blend it with traditional petroleum-based jet fuel to at least reduce the carbon footprint, which is better than relying 100% on petroleum products. Kevin, correct me if I'm wrong, isn't this similar to I think it's called biodiesel fuel for cars?
Yeah, biodiesel can be used for, cars or trucks or, rail, things that use basically diesel fuel. Honeywell, we have our eco-finding technology that actually doesn't produce biodiesel. It's a little bit of a different material. We produce something that's very close to, conventional diesel through our eco-finding technology, and it's using these feedstocks that I mentioned that we're using to make SAF. It's just a little bit of a different processing method to make diesel instead of jet. Yeah. But that, renewable diesel is basically what we call it. It's a little bit distinction between that and biodiesel. And the renewable diesel is available today. I mean, you do see it in, certain parts of the country for sure. You'll see renewable diesel as a significant fraction of the diesel pool. And that is already in use, and it's already reducing carbon emissions by, something on the similar order, 50 to 80% in that range.
We are chatting with Kevin O'Neill, Senior Business Leader for Renewable Fuels for Honeywell's Sustainable Technology Solutions Business Unit. We're learning about the development of a Ready Now solution that allows for ethanol producers or petrochemical producers to convert corn-based, cellulosic, or sugar-based ethanol into sustainable aviation fuel, or SAF. You touched on the key benefit being the environment, Kevin, but does it cost an airline, for example, more money to have a more eco-friendly fuel solution, or is it comparable to petroleum or less?
Yeah, so today producing these renewable fuels is more expensive than conventional petroleum-based fuels, but Right now that's where the technology is. We're trying to produce new technologies that enable lower cost, enable lower carbon footprints, and that's basically what's the main priority of the space today.
Sure. Maybe through economies of scale, it'll get less expensive over time as more airlines adopt it.
Exactly. Scale and also identifying new feedstocks. Biomass is a relatively inexpensive feedstock that we've done a lot of work with. Ethanol as well is comparable. There's a lot of infrastructure today with ethanol to enable it to be useful as a SAF feedstock without a lot of additional costs that may come with other feedstocks. So it's kind of in that sweet spot of a really good, abundant feed that can scale and ultimately drive to lower costs.
And then finally, where can our listeners go for more info?
Yeah, I would say go to pmt.honeywell.com and our sustainability page.
All right, so that's Performance Materials and Technologies, pmt.honeywell.com. Kevin O'Neill has been our guest. Thanks so much for your time and your expertise, Kevin. Fascinating topic.
Okay, Mark, thanks. It's been great to talk to you. Thank you very much.
Hearing aids can now be bought over the counter, finally. So we're going to chat about what to look for when we return on Tech It Out.
Want to follow Mark? Google him. Mark with a C and Saltzman with a Z. Breaking down geek speak into street speak. This is Tech It Out. Tech It Out with technology columnist, author, and TV personality Mark Saltzman.
Welcome back to Tech It Out. Before we go to our next guest, for years I've been telling listeners that if they want to save money, and who doesn't, to use the free Slick Deals website, app, and browser extension. It's a community of millions that help sniff out and validate the best deals you can find, both at retail and online. There's also a Slick Deals cashback program designed to save even more. It enables you to receive cashback at participating retailers, and there are many of them, by earning points for eligible purchases that you make through Slick Deals, and then you can redeem those points for gift cards. To get going, head over to slickdeals.com/cashback. That's slickdeals.com/cashback. As you might have heard, hearing aids are now available to buy over the counter across the U.S. This marks a major shift in hearing health care thanks to a recent rule change by the FDA, which back in August cleared the way for devices to be sold at retail without the need for buyers to see a doctor first. To tell us more, we're joined on the line by Brian McGuire, Senior Vice President of Lexie Hearing and formerly of Bose, which is a relevant call out, as you'll soon learn. Hi, Brian. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Great. For those who are unaware, please tell us what happened on Monday, October 17th.
Yeah, a really historic day for hearing healthcare. For the first time, consumers are able to purchase hearing aids over the counter. And this is a very big deal. In fact, for Lexie Hearing, you'll be able to find us at over 11,000 storefronts nationwide.
Why is this significant? Because previously you had to see a doctor first, which was, I guess, a barrier of entry for many?
Yeah, historically, you've only been able to purchase a hearing aid with a prescription by seeing a hearing healthcare professional or an audiologist. And this has kept many people on the sidelines. There's about 37.5 million Americans who suffer from some degree of hearing loss, and only 1 in 5 who could benefit from wearing a hearing aid actually wear one. And it's because of a few of these barriers that have existed.
I'm assuming, Brian, and please correct me if I'm wrong, that another barrier would be cost. I mean, it's no secret that hearing aids can be quite expensive. My mom wears a pair, and I write for Costco Connection magazine, so I interface with a lot of the readers. So is that something that this over-the-counter solution may help as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So not only they can be difficult to get through the appointments, but you're confronted with a price that's often $4,000 a pair for a pair of hearing aids. So that's cost prohibitive, obviously expensive for so many people. So a huge benefit of over-the-counter hearing aids is going to be their availability at a fraction of the cost of traditional hearing aids.
Okay, that's good to know. Yeah, I did read Better Hearing Institute says about 68% of people with hearing loss cite finances as the main reason for not using hearing aids. So hopefully this will drive the cost down. And we're going to hear about a couple of models right now. In fact, how does Lexie Hearing fit into all of this, Brian? Talk to us about the company.
So Lexie Hearing offers a wide range of over-the-counter hearing aids, and these are going to be for people with mild to moderate hearing loss, and these are adults 18 years of age or older. And you can find our brand new product, which is going to be the Lexie B2 over-the-counter self-fitting hearing aids powered by Bose. Those are available now today. A high-quality pair of hearing aids that pair with an app on your phone. And immediately after purchasing and you get home, within an hour, you can be back up to better hearing. And these all have audiologist quality customization that you can do in the comfort of your own home. And like we said, for a fraction of the cost.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that because it's not a one-size-fits-all scenario. And I don't mean that just by physical size of the hearing aids to have it best fit your specific ears, but also having it optimized for your specific needs. I'm sure there's different kinds of hearing loss. So how do you address that without the need of an audiologist?
Yeah, the Lexie B2s feature the world's first self-tuning hearing system. So very simple. The goal of this was to actually have 2 simple wheels that allows you to customize your hearing in real world situations in that moment. So you can be in a restaurant and have the application up on your phone, make adjustments to not only the loudness or the world volume around you, but also the tonal controls of bass and treble. And that's a big breakthrough that hasn't been possible before.
We are chatting with Brian McGuire, SVP of Lexie Hearing. That's Lexie. He also used to work with Bose, which is no coincidence. The B2 set of hearing aids that you were talking about are powered by Bose?
Yes, they are powered by Bose. So 2 great brands coming together. The Lexie B2 powered by Bose is brand new and that launched last week.
Okay. So these are Bluetooth enabled hearing aids, hence the app support. And that's also ideal, I guess, if a call comes in, then these hearing aids will wirelessly tether to your smartphone.
So these are Bluetooth, and so that they connect for the audiology quality customization. So the customization of the hearing aids can be direct on your phone. They do not stream music or phone calls intentionally. So they're purely for changing the soundscape of the environment around you. So that just wanted to call out that clarification.
Is there a reason why? Like my mom's hearing aids will work with her phone in her car, even with her smart TV.
We wanted to work first immediately on being able to hear the world around you. Most importantly, you can absolutely have these hearing aids on and still take a phone call. Many people now, as we know, take phone calls through a speakerphone, or you can hold these directly up to your ear.
And how much do the B2 hearing aids cost?
These will cost $9.99 per pair. So that includes a pair of high quality hearing aids. Of course, the application is free that you download, and also includes free remote customer support for the life of the product as well.
Before I let you go, I would love to hear about that other model. I think it's called the Lexie Lumen Bluetooth hearing aid.
Yes, the Lexie Lumen hearing aid is available nationwide as well, starting in stores as of last week, and you can purchase those for $7.99 a pair. A perfect pair of hearing aids. The primary difference between those two models is going to be one, it has replaceable batteries versus a rechargeable battery that the B2 has, but the Lexie Lumen device is also a great product within our lineup as well.
Okay. And with that in mind, for the B2s, how often do you need to recharge them?
So you'd want to charge them overnight. The battery life's going to be about 18 hours of listening use.
Yeah,
so that'll last you morning to night, which you need to wear your hearing aids, all off a 3-hour recharge that you do. You plug it in right next to your bedside, has a convenient charger, and the next day you're ready to go.
Okay, got it. And then just to confirm, for $200 less, for $7.99, you can go with the Lexie Lumen, which has a replaceable battery solution instead of rechargeable.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And there's one other distinction, right, Brian, when it comes to setting up the hearing aids for the first time?
Yes, both of these hearing aids use a self-fitting technology, which allows the user to customize to their hearing preferences. They use two different approaches. The B2 uses an approach where the user self-fits that directly using two wheels that are on the user interface in the application. The Lexie Lumen uses actually a hearing test that you take very quickly within the app, and according to that test, makes a recommendation upon which that setting should be for you, the user. So two different approaches to ultimately the same outcome, which is better hearing. So you can go to LexieHearing.com. There you can find out about hearing loss in general. You can take a very free 2-minute hearing test if you're curious about where you are in your hearing health. And of course, you can learn all about the products that we happen to sell.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thanks, Brian. Appreciate your time. Very exciting time in the hearing healthcare space. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. Thank you so much for your time.
Adventure gamers rejoice. The latest in the Syberia franchise is out now for PCs, coming soon for consoles. We'll chat about the new game when we return.
Breaking down geek speak into street speak. Check it out. Hosted by Mark Saltzman.
Welcome back, everyone. You are listening to Tech It Out, powered by ASUS, the company that creates technology for today and tomorrow's smart life. And that includes its line of award-winning laptops and desktops, monitors, mobile tech like smartphones and smartwatches and tablets, and much more. For those in search of incredible, visit asus.com/US/radio. That's ASUS.com/US/radio. Not sure if you know this, but the kinds of computer games that led me to getting into the industry in the mid-1990s were these so-called point-and-click adventure games, where you have a story to unravel by talking with characters in the game, picking up items and solving puzzles, and exploring the environment. Even though it debuted 5 or so years after I got into the industry, I've always had a soft spot for the Syberia franchise, and that's spelled Syberia, if you're not familiar with it. Well, a new game is now out for PCs and coming soon to consoles, called Syberia: The World Before. We're joined on the line by Lucas Lagravette. He is the game director and lead writer of Syberia: The World Before, who works at Microids based in France. Thank you, Lucas. Merci. Thank you so much for your time.
Hi, Mark. Thank you.
Now, before we talk about Syberia: The World Before, tell us about the Syberia adventure game franchise as a whole, and who was the late and great Benoit Socal?
Well, Syberia, it was a series that was created in the early 2000s. It was, like you said in your intro, it was point-and-click adventure game, and it was actually designed by a well-known Belgian writer and comic drawer, which was called Benoit Socal. And he was also known for his first video game that was called The Amazon. And it was well-known to, old school point-and-click games like Myst.
Yeah, that's right. Again, I love those adventure games with puzzle solving. And I think Benoit, maybe because he is a graphic artist as well, he just paints such a beautifully immersive story, and the graphics as well. It really sort of brings you into the narrative. And I think Syberia is no exception. To what do you attribute Syberia's global success?
Well, for me, it's like you said, it's Benoit Socal's universe. He was a complete artist, so he thought both, the graphic aspect, the artistic one, and also the narrative one. He created an entire global universe that was unique, and I think that's what the players want to find back with each new episode.
Yeah, I love with all the Syberia games, the protagonist is a strong female lead. And I love also the animatronics, the automatons and all that in the game, and how that's woven into the story as well.
Yeah, that's, I was going to say Kate Walker, the main character, I think it's the other main reason why people love Syberia, because it's a very unique, character, which you can see evolve with a very, psychological perspective in each episode. And, about the automatons, it's like another world. It's a bit like our world. You have things in common with our world, but some things are a bit different. It's what Benoit called, taking a step with reality. And I think the automatons were the main elements of that.
That's a great way to put it. So instead of riding a train, which is something that many of us do today, especially in Europe where Benoit lived, but having a robotic or automaton driving the train is where things get a little surreal when Kate Walker, for example, may interact with one of these characters. So really cool. Now tell us about Syberia, The World Before. I reviewed it earlier in the summer. Is it a sequel, a prequel, a little bit of both?
For me, it's definitely a sequel because, you take back the main character, Kate Walker, right after the events of the third episode. So Syberia, The World Before is, canon fourth episode. But the thing is, Kate investigates about some events from the past, which kind of also makes it a prequel of the universe, if I can say so.
Yeah, I don't want to give away too much here, and I can tell you don't either. But let's just say that not only are you playing during modern times, but you may also assume the role of another character, and that takes place in the past, and the two storylines may be intertwined. Is that fair?
It's perfectly fair. Exactly.
And what were you trying to achieve with this sequel?
Well, what you just said, a narration with two main characters and not only one, like in the previous episodes. It was, Benoit really wanted to tell the story of that new main character, which is called Dana Rose, right. Because she's really inspired by his own family story. And as a game designer, I thought it was really interesting to have a game in which you can have two main characters.
Yeah, it's really great. Can you give our listeners an example of the kinds of puzzles that you may need to solve in this game?
Yeah, so I can give you have one I like very much, and I think people that play the game love those. So it's you have one of those automaton mechanism to solve. So it's kind of a coffer in an old refuge, a mountain refuge. And to open it, you need, to solve some different mechanisms, a bit like in the previous episodes. But what's unique with The World Before is during this sequence, you have to pass from one character to another. And by doing so from one timeline, from another. So you play in the present with Kate and in the past with Dana. And you gather information with Dana in the past that allow you to progress in the present with Kate.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. We're going to chat more about Syberia, The World Before, with Lucas Lagravette, the game director and lead writer, when we return with more Tech It Out. Hey, if you're on social media, drop by and say hi. Let me know what you think of the show or podcast, however you're listening to this. If you have any tech questions or comments, beefs, whatever. I'm on Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. So pick your poison. It's Mark Saltzman, MarkSaltzman. Mark Saltzman, Mark with a C, Saltzman with a Z. Drop by and say hi. Let me know what you're up to. And I look forward to chatting with you on the socials. We'll be right back with more Tech It Out right after this short break. Stay with us.
Follow Mark Saltzman on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram. Listen to Tech It Out whenever you want.
We are chatting with Lucas Lagravette. He is the game director and lead writer of Syberia, The World Before. It's a game published by Microids, based in France, and it is a sequel to the Syberia game franchise that started in the early 2000s. Before the break, Lucas, you were talking to us about the different timelines in the game and how what you do in the past can influence the future, and that's part of the puzzle solving. If I may geek out for a moment as an adventure game aficionado, if you will, I remember the first time I had time machine kind of puzzles were Day of the Tentacle from LucasArts in the early 90s. You remember that one?
Yeah, and I'm very ashamed to, I must confess, I hadn't played the game when we designed Syberia the world before. So for this kind of puzzle, actually my reference was more like, Legacy of Kain's Soul Reaver, you go from one world to another. And afterwards, I played, Day of the Tentacle, and I was like, wow, they nailed it 20 years ago.
Yeah, of course. And by the way, that view of the Alps, the mountainous region, the Alps off that refuge earlier in the 20th century is gorgeous, by the way. I still remember that.
Thank you.
I downloaded it from Steam for the PC, but I understand that there is a console version launching in November. Is this the exact same game?
Yes, it's the same game, but you have day one, all the different, patches we made on the PC version. Sure. They are all included in this one, obviously, and also on PS5 and Xbox Series X version, it's like playing in the highest possible graphic version of the PC game, but on your console.
Yeah, so Kate and Dana look amazing, as do the environments. And Lucas, do you think there'll be any other Syberia games to follow? I know Benoit Socal only passed away last year, so I don't know if this was his final thing and how much you worked on this game yourself instead of sort of taking the reins from Benoit. What's to come from Syberia?
Well, it's like you said, Benoit passed away last year, and it was tragic, of course, and so I can't give you a definitive answer. But what I can say is that Benoit wanted Syberia the World Before to have a sequel. He left us some material for that. But, we as a studio and as a team, we don't have the rights of the Syberia franchise. So it's not in our hands, to decide. But if there should be, a sequel, we would love to do it.
Okay. Well, I'm hoping there is, as a fan of the franchise. Again, the game is called Syberia, The World Before. That's Syberia, coming soon to consoles, available now for Windows PC. Where can we learn more about the game?
We engage a lot with our fans on different social medias, So we have a very strong and active community, and I want to say hi and thank them. And so you can follow Syberia, on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and we have a very nice Reddit subtopic with great fans and a lot of very interesting discussion.
And there's also microids.com, which is microids.com. Hey, Lucas, best of luck on the console launch of Syberia, The World Before. Thank you so much for taking out some time to chat.
Thank you, Mark. Bye-bye. See you.
What a nice guy. I really do love those adventure games. Let me know what you think of this game or the genre, the point-and-click adventure games, on social media. It's Mark with a C, SALTZMAN. I'm on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. I'd like to end off the show with a couple of thank yous to some key partners on Tech It Out, including Visa. Did you know that online shoppers are 3 times more likely to enter an unfamiliar store if it displays a Visa logo, as customers are 5 times more likely to think a merchant is reputable? This is because Visa has invested billions over the years in fraud prevention, so you don't need to think twice about shopping at retail or online with your Visa card, nor should businesses be concerned about secure payments. There's a lot of information available at visa.com/security. I encourage you to check it out. That's visa.com/security. And thank you to Visa for your partnership on Tech It Out. As I mentioned before, ASUS is the title sponsor on this program. I'm recording this on an ASUS laptop right now, this weekly radio show and podcast on a ZenBook. And speaking of computers, we'll end off with a thank you to Western Digital for your partnership on Tech It Out. WD external hard drives and SanDisk flash drives, like those little keychain size USB thumb drives. There's SD memory cards, solid state drives or SSDs. I rely on all of this for offline storage to reliably back up my important information on a daily basis, just in case. You can head over to sandisk.com or westerndigital.com for more. And once again, if you want to swing by on social media to say hi, it's Mark with a C, M-A-R-C, Saltzman with a Z, S-A-L-T-Z-M-A-N. Let me know what you're up to. Share your Halloween costumes if you like. You'll see mine on there with my wife Kelly and I and our friends for sure. Tell me the kind of guests and topics you want me to tackle on Tech It Out, or if you have any questions about your tech. I'm on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. Thank you for tuning in to Tech It Out, everyone. Have a fantastic week ahead, and I look forward to catching up with you next weekend for another fresh episode of Tech It Out. Bye-bye for now.